I can still picture the way Ethan Caldwell's face froze. Like he'd been sucker punched in the gut, but was too stunned to gasp for air. It was that hollow, unblinking stare, the kind that screams a storm's brewing deep inside, even if the surface stays eerily calm. We were crammed into the boardroom on the 12th floor of Vanguard Finance's downtown Seattle tower. Chairs scraping against the polished concrete. Air thick with the scent of stale coffee and unspoken dread. Gavin Hale, our hotshot new CFO fresh from Wall Street, paced at the front like he owned the place. Laser pointer slicing through the dim projector glow. We're optimizing for agility, he drawled in that clipped Ivy League tone. As if he were discussing stock options instead of people's lives. Support functions are being recalibrated for maximum ROI, effective end of day. Then, without so much as a flicker of remorse, he rattled off the list. Names dropped like spent cartridges, Ethan Caldwell, regulatory compliance lead, severance details via HR portal. Appreciate your contributions. Heads dip low, avoiding the invisible shrapnel. I caught Ethan's gaze from across the table, my desk neighbor for the past 5 years, and something dark shifted in his eyes. Not rage, not despair, but a cold, deliberate spark. Like a man finally connecting the dots on a map he'd been studying in secret for too long. Ethan didn't flinch, didn't argue or storm out in a huff. He just sat there, absorbing it like a sponge soaking up poison. His fingers drumming once on the armrest, a subtle tick I'd seen before when he was piecing together audit discrepancies. The room emptied in awkward waves, folks muttering condolences under their breath. But Ethan lingered, gathering his notes with mechanical precision. As I passed him on my way out, I whispered, "This is bullshit. Ethan, you built this department from scratch." He looked up, his voice low and steady, like gravel under tires, sometimes. Bullshit fertilizes the ground for something stronger. Lisa, I didn't get it then. Thought it was just his way of coping. That quiet Midwestern resilience he'd carried since moving here from Ohio. But as he slipped that slim USB drive from his pocket into his jacket, the one he always kept locked in his drawer, I felt a chill. It wasn't over for him. Hell, it was just beginning. That night, Ethan's apartment in the quiet suburbs felt like a pressure cooker with the lid screwed tight. No blaring TV to drown out the silence. Just the faint tick of the wall clock and the hum of his old desktop fan. I showed up uninvited, bottle of cheap bourbon in hand, figuring he needed a friend to vent to. But he didn't vent. Didn't pace or curse Gavin's name. Instead, he spread out his files on the scarred oak dining table, years of regulatory binders, each tabbed and cross-referenced like a Bible for bureaucrats. 19 years, he murmured, flipping to a dog-eared page marked with faded highlighter. No violations. No slaps on the wrist from the SEC. I kept the ship afloat through recessions and scandals. His voice cracked just a hair. Not from anger, but from the raw ache of betrayal, the kind that festers when loyalty gets repaid with a pink slip. I poured us drinks, watching as he scanned an email chain, his jaw tightening. Unread messages he'd sent to Gavin months ago. Urgent. SEC mandate on signatory transitions. Formal handover required. Ignored. Every damn one. They thought I was just paperwork, he said. Eyes narrowing. But paperwork has teeth when you know where to bite. The weight of it hit him then. I could see it, the silent erosion of trust. The way the company had chipped away at his sense of purpose, leaving him hollowed out. Ethan wasn't the type to scream. He internalized it. Let it simmer until it turned to steel. He printed out the key docs that night, his printer whirring like a conspirator in the dim light. A federal notification form. His name still etched as the official compliance designee. No handover filed. No replacement named. A breach that could unravel everything. He sealed them in an envelope. labeling it with that same meticulous script, disclosure for federal review, Q4 anomalies. I asked, "You sure about this? It could blow back on you." He met my eyes. The pain raw but resolute. Blowback? They've already blown me apart. Lisa. This is me picking up the pieces and making sure they feel every shard. Monday dawned crisp and unforgiving. The Seattle fog clinging to the streets like unspoken regrets. Ethan didn't call in sick or beg for his job back. He suited up in his old Navy blazer, the one he'd worn to every audit, and drove downtown to the federal building. Envelope tucked under his arm like a loaded gun. I waited in a nearby cafe, nursing black coffee. My phone buzzing with office gossip. The SEC auditors were already on site at Vanguard, sifting through boxes Ethan himself had prepped quarters ago. He walked into that sterile lobby, past security wands and stone-faced guards, and straight to the intake desk. "Personal delivery for the oversight team," he said, voice even as a flat line. The clerk eyed the envelope, stamped it, and nodded him through. Ethan didn't linger for drama. He turned on his heel and left. But not before glimpsing the auditors in the conference room, poring over Vanguard's files that screamed his absence like a gaping wound. Back in my car, he slid into the passenger seat, exhaling slow. "Done," was all he said. But I pressed, "What if they ignore it?" His lips twitched in a ghost of a smile, laced with bitterness. "They can't. My signature's still on every active cert. Without me, they're flying blind, and the feds hate blind spots." The betrayal burned in him. I could feel it radiating like heat from a dying ember. Years of late nights, skipped family dinners, all for a company that discarded him like yesterday's memo. It wasn't just a job lost, it was his identity fractured. The quiet pride he'd built brick by regulatory brick now weaponized against those who'd shattered it. The fallout started subtle, like cracks spiderwebbing across ice before the plunge. By midday, whispers rippled through Vanguard's open-plan floors. The auditors were grilling execs about compliance gaps. "Why no transition log for Caldwell?" one demanded, her voice echoing down the hall. Gavin, perched in his glass-walled office with its panoramic views, went ashen when the questions turned pointed. "He was non-essential," he stammered. But the auditor's stare cut like a scalpel. "Non-essential? He's your federally registered point of contact. Firing him without protocol is like pulling the plug on life support mid-surgery." I overheard it from the copier room. Heart pounding, the drama unfolding in real time. Tension coiling tighter with every dodged query. Gavin tried to deflect, blaming system glitches and oversights, but the envelope Ethan had dropped? It was open now, its contents spilling like acid, ignored warnings, unfiled handovers. A trail of negligence leading straight to Gavin's inbox. The air in the office thickened, paranoia seeping in. Colleagues eyed each other warily, wondering who'd be next under the microscope. Gavin's swagger crumbled. I saw him alone in the break room, hands trembling as he poured coffee that sloshed over the rim. The betrayal hit him too, not from Ethan, but from the system he'd gamed, now biting back. By afternoon, legal was in full scramble, pulling all-nighters to trace email chains Ethan had flagged. And there it was, a $15 million wire to an opaque offshore consultant, approved post-firing with no secondary review. Ethan's old reports screamed from the archives, potential FSPA violation, escalate immediately. Ignored. The auditors froze the account on the spot, their faces masks of bureaucratic fury. Gavin's voice cracked in the emergency huddle. This is a witch hunt. But no one bought it. The price of his choices loomed: fines, scrutiny, maybe worse, and the room pulsed with unspoken accusations. The drama ratcheting up as alliances frayed. Ethan stayed silent through it all. Holed up in his apartment, binder open like a war journal. No gloating texts. No social media rants. just quiet vigil. The pain of rejection fueling his resolve. I visited that evening, finding him staring at his laptop screen, a news alert on regulatory probes. "They think silence means surrender," he said, voice laced with weary triumph. "But mine's the kind that echoes." The next day, the hammer fell harder, subpoenas for Slack logs, revealing Gavin's redirects of Ethan's alerts to dead-end folders. Handle later, one note read, "Code for bury it." The board convened in hushed panic. Investors pulling funds like rats fleeing a sinking ship. 2 VPs got sidelined. Their leaves administrative, but reeking of fallout. Ethan? He got a call from DC. "Your disclosures initiated a formal inquiry. We need your expertise." The irony twisted like a knife. The man they'd betrayed now held the reins. As the week dragged on, Vanguard unraveled thread by thread. The offshore payments? Tied to shady deals Gavin had greenlit for quick wins. Ethan's ignored flags now evidence in a mounting case. Fines loomed in the millions. Class actions brewing from jittery clients. Gavin's suspension came Friday. His office taped off like a crime scene. The man himself slinking out under escort, face haunted by the ghost of his arrogance. The betrayals cost hit home, shattered careers, eroded trust. A company limping under federal oversight. Ethan didn't celebrate. The victory tasted bitter, laced with the loneliness of his vigil. But when the feds badged him as interim external liaison, he clipped it on without fanfare, stepping back into the fray not as victim, but arbiter. Months later, in Vanguard's revamped compliance wing, sterile, fortified, humming with new hires, Ethan's name loomed on every report. He signed off quarterly, his pen strokes deliberate, a silent reminder of the price paid for disregard. The drama had peaked in explosion, but the aftermath lingered, scars on souls, lessons etched in policy. Ethan walked those halls occasionally, eyes steady. The weight of betrayal transformed into unyielding authority. Not revenge. Exactly, but justice. Cold and irrevocable. Proving that silence, when wielded right, can topple empires.